Please proceed, Governor.
Obama.
Sir.
Sir, I don't even know what I'm doing, sir.
Welcome, everybody. We're joining day 4 of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in progress. There's a ton to talk about, including the juror that was dismissed yesterday, or today, since yesterday, because of a joke they made about Jacob Blake, if you can imagine, which is just, I mean, this trial is just disgusting. So we're going to get to all of that. Also, people have asked me to talk about the insane report on Tim Pool getting COVID and Joe Rogan offering to pay for his ivermectin and stuff. But let's just jump right into this now because it is ongoing. I assume that they're going to take one more break before the end. It's an hour. They're in Central Time. Let's listen.
In their words, there were people trying to break into the Stella and light it on fire. Somebody had pointed a gun at them, and the cops weren't around. So we headed across the other car source facility, across the way into the burned out cars. And there were 3 to 4 subjects breaking out windows on the Stella and just milling around over there. And once we got to within 100 yards of them, I believe it was Colette yelled out at them. They turned and saw us and they ran off.
You were one of the people, along with Dustin Collette, that went over there?
That's correct.
Who else went with you?
I want to say that Kyle was with us and one of the protesters who had told us about it.
So
This is a volunteer enforcer that we're hearing from.
Out or fire started, anything like this, but what gave you the right to go around and police that area?
Well, there were members of the community that asked us to go help them.
Who?
These 4 protesters.
Well, those you characterized as folks walking with fire extinguishers. Were they from the Stella?
They came from that direction.
Were they employed by the Stella?
I didn't ask.
Is it fair to say you heard a report that somebody was up to no good and you decided to head over there and stop it?
Correct.
Other than that, you don't know anything more about what was going on?
There's a vigilante.
And these people you saw milling about at the Stella, do you know who they were?
One was one of them was fairly tall. The rest of the people seemed to be about average height or shorter.
Beyond that description of their height, do you know anything else about them?
No, we didn't get that close.
Don't know where they came from?
Nope.
Don't know their names?
Nope.
He's
Don't
an
know
enforcer,
where they
not an
went
asker.
afterwards?
Nope.
Don't know what their affiliation, if any, was with the Stella? Right?
I would assume they weren't affiliated with the Stella.
I would assume somebody breaking the Stella's windows is probably not. I agree with that. But my point is you're making an assumption
Correct.
with less than perfect information.
A suicide.
That is correct.
You mentioned a fire at the St. James. Was that at the St. James Church?
This church right here.
Now, Can you just put your pointer back up right where you were doing? This is a satellite photograph of Kenosha that's a little older. There's a building that you're pointing at right now. On the night of August 25th, 2020, that building wasn't standing anymore, was it?
No.
There was a pile of
There
rubble?
was rubble right here, but there's another building right in there.
Okay. The church itself is actually on the other end of the north end of the block along 58th Street. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. When you mentioned something about a fire or somebody trying to start a fire at that location. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, the same individuals that told us about the Stella showed up again, and they described a female, 2 males trying to light a fire at the church.
What did you do?
We kind of just walked around the street to kind of look around there. When we got there, we could see somebody on the front of the church. They saw us. They ran off.
Did you see anything more than that one person?
No.
Did you see what that person was doing?
No.
Did you see a fire?
No.
Did you put out a fire?
No.
What do you guys think Kyle Rittenhouse is writing down during this testimony?
That 8 o'clock to 9:30 or 10 o'clock period of time, and you've described a couple of things, the Stella incident, the St. James incident. So beyond that, what other things were you doing in that period of time?
We were walking down to 63rd to check it out. At that point, we had figured out that the folks that said they were going to stay there no longer stayed there. So onesies and two at a time, people were going down there to check on it. Then they would go over to the Ultimate, check on the guys over there, see what they were doing, and then
They were
circle back
protecting,
and come
guys.
back.
Come on.
We've seen some photos and videos of the Ultimate gas station. Would it be fair to say that there were people protecting that location that were similar to your group, armed with long rifles, things like that?
That is correct.
And you mentioned that whatever these vans were with these folks with melee weapons at 63rd, at some point in the evening you found out they weren't there anymore?
That is correct.
I want to ask more specifically about that. Was that something that you personally found out or you heard from someone else?
I kind of just heard it through discussion that there was nobody down there anymore.
When you heard that, how many people were in your group guarding the 59th Street location at that point?
It would have been around 7 or 8.
And you said you would send groups of 2 people at a time to go down to 63rd?
That's correct.
Were you ever one of those folks?
Yes.
Was the defendant?
Yes.
What was going on when you went down there?
When we went down that way, there was nobody down there. A couple of the folks that had been down there initially had moved over to the Ultimate. That seemed to be where they had kind of ganged up, but the folks with the melee stuff had kind of gone.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm understanding you. You said a couple of the folks that were at the 63rd Street car source initially wound up going over to the Ultimate gas station?
That is correct.
Were those folks that came in those vans?
One of them came at the same time the vans did.
Okay. So one of the people that came at the same time as the vans did wound up at Ultimate Gas.
That is correct.
And it sounds like there may have been more than just one person from 63rd that wound up at Ultimate Gas?
There was one other guy that was with him when we showed up.
Okay. So is it fair to say that, speaking for you personally, Mr. Balch, you felt like it was part of your responsibility to not only guard the 59th Street car source, but also the 63rd Street car source?
That is correct.
Which is why you and other folks were going down there to check on it.
That's correct.
Okay. So I want to continue talking about that 8 o'clock to 9:30 or 10 o'clock period. We've talked about a few things. Other than that, what else were you doing during that period of time?
Mostly we were just kind of talking to people when they would walk by. We didn't really have any negative encounters during that period of time. You'd get the occasional person wanting to have a debate and whatnot, but most of it was just walking down to 63rd, somebody coming saying somebody's trying to light something on fire, go check it out, come back, wash.
They would
rinse,
check it out
repeat.
like they're cops. You guys know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, vigilantes.
So now you've mentioned there was a time when the police started to move the protesters in your direction, and I think you said earlier that was around 9:30 or 10 o'clock?
This is correct.
Okay. Tell us about that.
As soon as they started pushing the protesters, we started getting the less, I guess the people who weren't intending on participating in a riot, I should say, started kind of drifting down towards us. There were they were shouting insults at us.
I get the feeling this guy sees himself almost like a law enforcement witness, even though he's just a vigilante.
I spent the large majority of that time trying to calm people down and just keep them moving down the street. Then we started encountering people who were more and more aggressive, and the cops would push them, then they would back off, then they'd come back and push them again, and they would push them further south each time. Or, yeah, that's south.
When you describe these interactions with the people walking past, was the defendant present for any of that?
He had one exchange that I saw.
Who was that with?
Just some
I don't know why the audio cut.
He said, "I love you too, ma'am."
The hell?
You mentioned earlier that there was some sort of report of someone in a red shirt with
Something's up with this guy, right? That was a weird kind of thing there.
sort of incident. I think I heard you mention that as well.
Yes.
We now know with the benefit of hindsight who Joseph Rosenbaum was, and we've seen photographs of him in a red shirt and a bald head. Let me start by asking, whatever report you heard regarding Mr. Rosenbaum at that particular time, did you ever see him at that time?
I had seen someone fitting the description, kind of milling in and out of the groups that were coming through. Every time he was around the groups, now that I know who Joseph Rosenbaum was and can confirm who he was and stuff, he was not organic with the protesters.
What do you mean by that?
They didn't seem comfortable with his presence or the people that were with him.
Who was
Sir,
with
why
him?
are you red?
He had a male and a female that were with him pretty much consistently throughout the night.
So you saw those folks together?
Yes.
Him and the male and the female. Did you ever see them speaking to one another?
The male and the female, yes, but as far as them talking to him directly, no.
So you never saw Mr. Rosenbaum talk to that male or female?
No.
And you never saw the male and female talk
What's
to
funny is this seems like a defense witness, but it's a prosecution witness, and I'm curious where they're going with this.
proximity to one another, so you're making some sort of assumption that they had some sort of association. Is that fair to say?
I saw them in close proximity with each other several times, which led to that assumption.
Okay. Tell us about the first time that you observed Mr. Rosenbaum.
The first time he was just getting aggravated with someone in the crowd. And the protesters were trying to separate him from whoever that was. And
Has an Alex Jones vibe to him for sure. Well,
off. And one of the things that stood out to me was the tall male that was with him had a handgun in his hand with the finger on the trigger pointed down to the ground.
Now, you had an AR-15,
This is correct.
and you had your hand on the butt of that AR-15.
No.
At no point?
Hand on the grip with the fingers straight forward along the side of the receiver.
I misspoke when I said butt. I mean, the grip, the pistol grip of the AR-15, you had your hand on that with your finger not on the trigger, but within close proximity. Fair
That
to
is
say?
correct.
Okay. And this individual had a handgun
Right.
with his finger on the trigger.
This is correct.
And that caused you to be concerned of some sort of what?
Well,
incredible
you're
trigger
typically taught
discipline.
not to put your finger on the trigger unless you're ready to shoot. The way he was holding it, had anybody bumped into him or him tripped and fell, he would have been sending a round off into who knows what. So I just saw it as unsafe.
And the potential for some sort of tragic accident.
Correct, or he was prepared for something.
Did you ever see him point that gun at anyone?
No.
Did you ever see him fire that gun?
No.
And obviously, you had a gun that was bigger and more powerful than his. Fair to say?
This is fair to say.
And you're familiar with AR-15s?
That's correct.
How long had you owned your AR-15?
Since 2012.
So 8 years.
Yes.
And over that period of time, how many times had you fired your AR-15?
By August of 2020, I probably had somewhere close to 10 to 15,000 rounds through it.
And what type of ammo did it take? What caliber?
5.56.
And are you familiar with the term full metal jacket?
This is correct.
And is that the type of ammo you would use?
Yes or no would be the
Yes.
answer.
And can you, as a military former infantryman in the Army who's fired 10 to 15,000 rounds, can you tell us a little bit about what full metal jacket bullets are?
FMJ, full metal jacket bullets are just a solid copper jacket around a lead core. There's nothing really particularly special about it.
I need to
It's
drink of
not
water.
particularly more dangerous than any other type of ammunition. In the state of Wisconsin, you're not allowed to hunt with full metal jacket ammunition.
Do you know why that is?
Penetration, over penetration.
What is that?
It's almost weird to be asking this guy questions of this sort.
Hollow points are designed to hit the target and expand and transfer the energy. A full metal jacket's not designed to do that. So, depending on what it hits, it can just sail right on through.
So it's fair to say that a full metal jacket round fired from an AR-15 has the potential for hitting whatever it's shot at, say a deer, for example, and going through that and continuing on to something down the line,
It can.
as opposed to a hollow point, which typically hits a deer, for example, and then stops.
Yes.
And is it fair to say in your experience that a Glock handgun like you had that night is often loaded with hollow point ammunition, and a AR-15 is often loaded with full metal jacket ammunition?
It depends on what you're doing with it.
Is that what you
They-
typically would do
I tend to run full metal jackets, yes.
in the AR-15?
In the AR-15.
What about in your Glock?
Hollow points.
And why is that?
My AR-15, I mostly use it for target and competition shooting.
Competition.
Glock is more for personal defense.
Right.
Loading a handgun like a Glock with hollow point ammunition is what you would consider to be the better choice for self-defense.
Yeah, for concealed carry, absolutely.
What about for open carry?
For open carry, it'd be the same thing for a Glock handgun.
When you've fired your
Cool guys, huh?
AR-15, 10 to 15,000 rounds of full metal jacket ammunition through there, what is the furthest distance of target that you've hit with that?
500 yards.
So it's a weapon that's capable of shooting a full metal jacket round and hitting a target 500 yards away.
It's maximum.
It's so
effect-
funny. A lot of people just joining are like, is this an expert witness on firearms? Like, no, it's not. I don't even know why they're doing this.
Now,
Sir, you're turning purple.
Mr. Rosenbaum, and your observations of him, and I think you described something out in the street with some other protesters, or he yelled.
Oh boy.
Please proceed, Governor.
Every time I encountered Joseph Rosenbaum, he was hyper aggressive and acting out in a violent manner.
When we say violent manner, you saw him hitting, punching, kicking
He
people?
was always having to be restrained by someone.
Okay. And I understand that. Did you ever see him hit anyone?
The crowd was pretty good about getting in between him and whoever it was. If he landed a blow, I didn't see it,
The answer would be no.
but he definitely wanted to.
Well, now, you have no idea, do you, what was going on in Mr. Rosenbaum's head?
No,
You'd never met him before that night?
no.
Okay. So let's just keep to your observations if we can.
All
How tall are you?
5'9",
How tall was Mr. Rosenbaum?
5'4", 5'3".
So much shorter and smaller than you.
Yes.
Fair? Now, I know you want to talk about what you believe he was intending to do, but my question to you was, did you ever actually see him hit anyone?
No,
Did you ever actually see him kick anyone?
no,
Did you ever actually see him with a weapon in his hand?
no,
Did you ever actually see him cause any physical injury to anyone that night?
I saw him attempt to do it on a couple occasions,
Got
but
the
I never
question.
saw him
That
do
was
it.
not my question, Mr. Balch. Did you ever? Excuse me?
It was my impression he was answering your question.
He wasn't.
You'd agree with me?
Cross-examination, right?
Pardon me?
It's not cross-examination. He's supposed to ask open-ended questions. He was answering.
It was my impression that the witness had not completed his answer.
I apologize. I'll try to stop jumping in a little too soon, Mr. Balch. Did you ever see the defendant actually physically Mr. Rosenbaum? Did you ever actually see Mr. Rosenbaum physically injure anyone that night?
No.
Did you personally have any interactions with Mr. Rosenbaum?
I got between him and Colette at one point, and then he threatened me and the defendant.
The time you described where you got in between him and Dustin Collette, between Mr. Rosenbaum and Dustin Collette, was the defendant present for that?
It immediately preceded him threatening me and Kyle Rittenhouse.
So was the defendant present for that?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Colette had stopped him from starting something on fire. There's a video of it, and
I'm sick of the judge too, guys. We're going to talk about it at the break. There's actually a lot going on behind the scenes to discuss.
stopped doing that. I turned and had an exchange with one of the protesters, and I kind of explained to that protester, hey, I get what you're trying to do, but not this. And when I turned around, Rosenbaum was right there in front of my face, yelling and screaming, and I said, dude, back up, just chill. I don't know what your problem is. And he goes,
Oh boy. I think they're bleeping swears, right?
You say that to the defendant as well?
the defendant was there, so yes.
And as far as you could tell, the defendant was close enough to hear what Mr. Rosenbaum said.
That is correct.
Now, when this conversation occurred, were you wearing your AR-15 slung in front of your body?
That is correct.
Did Mr. Rosenbaum ever reach for it?
He didn't try.
Did he touch
That was
it?
the question.
No,
You had your Glock pistol on your hip, correct?
that is correct.
Did he ever reach for that?
No,
Did he ever touch that?
no,
Did he ever touch you?
no.
And at that point, could you see that Mr. Rosenbaum had no weapons of any kind?
He had a bag full of what looked to be chemicals to me. In his hand, the guy with the Glock with the handgun behind him, and a female with a backpack. That was what I considered Rosenbaum having with him.
Okay. So a couple things. First of all, this bag, this plastic bag,
Yes.
It had cans
was
of
it something that you could see inside?
It was a clear hospital type bag. It had containers, but I couldn't really tell what the containers were. I made the assumption at the time and told the FBI the same thing, that I thought it was for making Molotov cocktails.
And was that actually true?
I saw a similar bag later in the night that didn't contain those chemicals. So the assumption
Did not? Did not?
did not.
When you say you saw a similar bag in the night, what you mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, is after the defendant shot Mr. Rosenbaum, in that incident, Mr. Rosenbaum threw that same, and we can see from the videos, he throws that same bag at the defendant, and it is left lying on the ground of the 63rd Street car source. You're aware of that from all the videos, correct?
Yes.
Did you go to that 63rd Street car source after the defendant killed Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Did you see that plastic bag laying on the ground?
Yes.
Did you look inside of it?
Yes.
Did it have any sort of Molotov cocktail?
No, it had some bottles that would be for soap, but I'd seen plenty of people carrying those around during the protest, so I had no idea what was actually contained within them.
Oh, and when you say you've seen a lot of people carrying bottles of soap?
This is like the exact type of guy where the idea that he's walking around with multiple weapons is scary. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near this guy with weapons at any time.
Was carrying. Did you see any chemicals that could be used to start any sort of tear gas or explosion or fire or anything along those lines?
I didn't really so much as look into it as I kind of picked it up and just kind of tossed it back on the ground. But it didn't appear to be any sort of lighter fluid or anything like that in there.
Did you see anything in that bag that you would construe as harmful or dangerous?
No.
In fact, you felt safe enough to walk up to it, pick it up, and look at it. Fair?
That's fair.
So getting back to this incident where the defendant Mr. Rosenbaum,
Sir, it was shampoo, not baby shampoo. Can be extremely irritating to the eyes.
that are close by. As we sit here today, do you now know who those folks were?
No, I don't.
Did that male and female that you're talking about, did they say anything to you?
No, the male always just had kind of a grin on his face the whole time. Like he was kind of enjoying all the violence and shenanigans that was going on.
Right. This guy wasn't enjoying the violence and shenanigans. He hates violence and shenanigans.
Anything to the defendant?
I never saw him speak to the defendant.
Did you see the female speak to you at any point?
No.
Did you see her speak to the defendant?
No.
Did either one of them do anything threatening towards you?
No.
Did either one do anything threatening towards the defendant?
No.
You've described a series of events that occurred.
Yeah, he hates violence so much he had multiple guns, some with hollow points and some with full metal jack. I know.
Is when the police started pushing protesters by. And I think you said there were times when the protesters would come back and then be pushed back and forth. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Would you mind using that pointer, laser pointer again, and point out the 59th Street car source, please? And just for the benefit of the jury, when you talk about the police moving the protesters out on the street, would you agree with me that the police are pushing people south on Sheridan from 58th to 59th and eventually down south to 60th?
That is correct.
And then you've described times when the police would pull back. Would they pull back north of 59th?
Yes.
So the protesters would be cleared from your area, but then allowed to come back in front of you and back and forth?
Yes.
Okay. When those movements would occur, I know you've described a little bit about the interactions with the folks on the street. In general, how would you say the attitude was of the people on the street towards you and your group?
Most of them seemed indifferent.
When you say most of them, were there others that didn't seem indifferent?
There were some that either seemed really angry about us being there, and then there were other people that seemed like they were kind of happy to just stand around and talk to us.
Do you remember there being issues with the laser pointers?
I do remember them calling out about people on the roof pointing laser pointers at them. And during that exchange with the person, somebody in the crowd actually pulls out a laser pointer and started doing the same thing. And at that point, to me, it was kind of null, because who's pointing the laser pointer?
Did you have any sort of laser sight on your gun that would illuminate a target?
No.
Do you know who it was up on the roof who was doing anything like that?
I had no idea who had that up there.
The rough. I like that.
Do you recall speaking with a individual who was taking video for a news source or a media online source called the Rundown Live?
I remember him coming into the car source area, but it wasn't so much as a formal interview as he was just standing around talking to us.
Do you remember him speaking to you and the defendant when that dumpster fire occurred out in front of your location?
Now, that's a literal dumpster fire. He's not referring to the entire spectacle.
Staying on your property as opposed to going out in the street?
Yes.
That's something you heard?
Yes.
What did you think about that?
We had protesters coming on to car sores. By this point, we were already going out and like people were getting knocked down in the street. We were already going out in the street and dragging them out of the street, making sure they were okay. He's seemed to be pretty. He seemed to want to keep us out of the street as much as possible, but by that point, there really was no declination between what was car sores and what was the street.
Well, you knew where the property line was.
Yes.
But I understand you wanting to maybe go out and help people and things like that, but did you interpret that message, or did you think to yourself, we can stay here and protect this property, but it's not our job to go out there and police the neighborhood? Did that thought ever occur to you?
Not really, no.
No.
Okay, so you felt like you were free to go out and confront people that you felt were doing things wrong.
No.
Help me understand that then.
It wasn't so much as I'm going to go out there and confront people because I can. It was if somebody from the crowd asked us to go help them, we would.
Okay, so
Only
if you're invited,
Right.
but you weren't going to just rush into a situation when you're uninvited and try and
That's
interfere.
correct.
Forgive me if I've already asked this, but I'm trying to keep the timing straight here. We've talked about your arrival at the 59th Street car source at around 8 p.m. When you first got there at that time, was there other folks that were supposed to be stationed at the 63rd Street car source?
No.
So when was it that you learned that the group that was supposed to be at 63rd Street
Your Honor,
had...
I'm going to object to this. This was all gone through 40 minutes ago.
This is, how much longer do you expect this particular examination to last?
of this witness in total?
Well,
Or about this particular issue?
Well, it's been a lengthy discussion, and I'm just wondering where we're getting.
He wants.
If I could just finish
pizza.
this question, I'll jump forward. I'm sorry. I may have missed the answer earlier, and I apologize if I've
Go
already
ahead.
asked this. Do you remember when it was that you first learned that
The judge is
folks
horrifying.
that were supposed to be at 63rd weren't
Horrifying
there
judge.
anymore? What time of the day or evening?
It would have been about an hour after we actually got to the 59th Street.
So I think you said you first got there at 8, so maybe
Yes.
9?
9.
Okay. Now, you've mentioned you had an interaction with Mr. Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Was that at the 59th Street location?
Yes.
After that, did you have any other interactions with him that night?
We encountered him hit and miss throughout the night, but he never approached us again that I saw, and he tried to engage us.
But you saw him around?
Yes.
What were your impressions of him when you saw him on those other times?
No, he was in the middle of them trying to light things on fire, smashing anything he could. In general, he was just being aggressive to the other guys down at the Ultimate. The protesters were getting pretty upset with him being around. They were very quick to let us know throughout the night, hey, that guy's not with us, that guy's not with us. Don't be mad at us. And hey, we get it. We've already dealt with him before. And that was just the general vibe from him throughout the night.
So you mentioned that you saw him starting things on fire. When did you see that?
A couple more dumpsters. They tried to light a road sign on fire that he was a part of that.
How do you light metal on fire?
Just random little things.
Do you know if the defendant saw any of that?
It's possible. The defendant
Do
was
you
close
know?
by when all this was going on.
Do you know?
When you say Mr. Rosenbaum was trying to start some other dumpsters on fire, where was that at?
Throughout the street, all up and down 59th.
Did he ever take any or was involved in any of the dumpsters at Ultimate Gas being started on fire, if you know?
I do believe, talking to people after the fact, that he was, but I couldn't confirm that myself.
Okay, and again, I'm not interested in what other people think or even what you've seen. I'm that particular night, and I know it's hard to pretend you haven't seen any other videos in the last year, but I'm trying to focus in on what you actually remember that night, what you
Seen.
saw that night. Do you remember seeing Mr. Rosenbaum actually start any of those dumpsters on fire?
No.
Do you remember actually seeing him start that street sign on fire?
Yes.
Where was that at?
That would have been. The protesters had been pushed a little bit south of us at that point. Oh, where's the button?
So I know a lot of people want me to talk about the dismissed juror. We're going to talk about all of it. There's going to be a break coming. I'm going to thank everybody who's been supporting the stream. We're going to do it all, but we do want to stay with this for now.
Where am I at?
This is the prosecution questioning. Prosecution.
Right in there.
And so you're pointing to a location on Sheridan Road just north of 60th?
That's correct.
And when you say they...
Mr. Falch, have you ever seen metal on fire?
Yes.
And what happened then?
They tried to light it on fire. It wouldn't go, so they kicked it over.
It wouldn't go. Okay.
When you say a road closed sign, can you describe what that looks like?
Oh, those are sometimes wood,
It was one
right?
of those big metal...
Oh, it was metal. Okay.
You know, the ones that they're portable that they can put in front of a road to stop it, to close it real quick. So about as wide as the witness stand is.
And again, you said they tried to start on a fire, but they couldn't.
Yep.
So they just knocked it over.
Yep.
Other than that, did you see Mr. Rosenbaum try and start any other fires?
Not after that, no.
I think you said he was trying to
Yeah, if
smash.
you're just joining us, the judge recently said, how much longer is this questioning going to be?
To the car source area, he was throwing rocks at buildings along the street. He was having a pretty good time.
Did you ever see him throw any sort of tear gas or gas container or anything along those lines?
I never saw him personally throw anything like that.
When you say he was throwing
He had a bag which could have contained a Jewish space laser. Did you see the laser? No.
Attached.
did you see those rocks hit anyone?
No, I didn't see him hit anyone.
What action, if any, did you take after seeing the defendant throw rocks at your group? I'm sorry, Mr. Rosenbaum.
We didn't really take any action. By that point, the protesters were also pretty done with people doing that, so they were policing them as well.
Did you feel like...
All right, we are going to squeeze in a short break.
Whoa.
We'll continue to...
All right, we are not going to squeeze in a break. Let's go over here.
Straight, is that right?
That is correct.
And I know you said that there was some back and forth. Did there come a time in which the line of police vehicles kind of finalized and stayed at 60th?
Yes,
When that happened, were you still at the 59th Street location?
that is correct.
After the police had pushed all the protesters south of 60th, was there any further risk of danger to the 59th Street car source location?
We were unaware of if or when the police were going to pull back again, so we did leave people there.
Guys, they were policing
If
people.
the
Come on.
police hadn't pulled back, if they'd stayed at that 60th Street line and kept the protesters south of 60th, would there have been any further risk of danger to the 59th Street location?
This is speculation.
Sustained.
After the police pushed the protesters south of 60th, was there any damage done at all after that to the 59th Street location?
Not that I'm aware of.
Were there any protesters around even trying to cause any damage to that location?
No, most of the protesters that were still up at 59th with us were just standing around talking.
After the... Okay, so the police, I understand you may not have known at the time, but it turned out that they established that line at 60th and pretty much kept it there. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Did you ever, once that happened, did you ever walk through that line heading south on Sheridan?
Yes.
Who was with you when you did that?
Jason Lekowski, Kyle Rittenhouse, and Dustin Collette was supposed to be with us.
When you say he was supposed to be, what happened?
Once we got across the line, I turned around and didn't see him.
Where did you go?
From there, I got mixed up in the crowd. I ran across the Ultimate, went inside there, and came back and started looking for the defendant.
Was this the time where the Daily Caller reporter Richie McGinnis was following you?
We had passed Mr. McGinnis before we crossed the police line south of 60th.
Okay. So you're aware of this video of Richie McGinnis interviewing the defendant, and then you and the defendant walking south on Sheridan through the police line with Mr. McGinnis with you. Is that
Correct.
right? Is that the time you're talking about?
Yes.
And you said there was someone else, Mr. Lukowski, with you?
Yes.
Is he? Do you know? Is he pictured in that video?
You see him following in behind us, I do believe.
Okay. Now, we watched that video earlier today.
Yes.
There is a time in which you encounter some folks with some fire extinguishers. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Once you passed 60th, and just so we're clear, you were walking on the west side of Sheridan Road,
Correct.
south of 60th. Richie McGinnis is there recording, correct?
Yes.
Tell us what you did after that point.
Once we got through 60th, we kind of paused on the north side of 60th. They were throwing rocks at the cops. And once they saw us there, they stopped throwing. They kind of shifted where they were throwing the rocks at the cops immediately right next to us to a little further down. We walked across, and once we entered the crowd, the defendant started asking people if they needed any first aid. I was doing the same. And walking through past there at an indeterminate time.
We'll go back over here. It's a generally better stream, yeah.
We kind of paused on the north side of 60th. They were throwing rocks at the cops. And once they saw us there, they stopped throwing. They kind of shifted where they were throwing the rocks at the cops immediately right next to us to a little further down. We walked across, and once we entered the crowd, the defendant started asking people if they needed any first aid. I was doing the same. And walking through past there at an indeterminate time, I lost track of the defendant.
Had you discussed with the defendant what your plan was once you crossed that police line?
We were going to check and see if anybody needed any first aid, then go down to 63rd and make sure nobody was destroying it. And I'm not sure if the defendant was there when I said it, but me and Lukowski had agreed that if we got separated, we would go back to 59th.
Did you have any specific instructions for the defendant when you were heading out in that location?
Yeah, it was just stay close, don't get separated, and see if anybody's hurt.
You also told him to keep his mouth shut and not engage with people, correct?
I told several individuals at 59th Street that.
Including the defendant.
I believe I told him not to respond the way he was to certain people.
What do you mean the way he was?
Uh-oh.
That goes back to earlier in the night when he said, "I love you too, ma'am." That's when I told him, "Hey, don't say that. Don't even respond."
Why not?
Just because it can cause somebody to escalate the situation if they feel like you're making fun of them a little bit. So it just wasn't needed.
So the plan once you cross 60th is stay together, but if you get separated, go back.
Correct.
And try not to engage.
Correct.
And you said there came a time in which you lost track of the defendant.
This is correct.
How did that happen?
Got lost in the crowd. I had a female protester approach me and started to try to get into a pro-gun, anti-gun exchange. From there, I went inside to see if he'd wanted the ultimate to get any snacks. When I came back out, I encountered more individuals protecting the property. I talked to them. I assumed at the time he wasn't over there anymore, and I started to make my way back north to 59th.
Can we please play exhibit number 17?
I can't even imagine what the cross-examination
I'm
is
going
going
to
to
need
be.
to turn on the TVs again.
How soon does the judge ask how much longer? What do you guys think? Thanks to Bone Master N Neptune and Belly Hair Designs for the Twitch Prime subs. Really appreciate it. Also thanks to Polo Dal and AJ Scorpia for the Twitch Prime subscriptions. And thanks to Mariah Liverpool for signing up on my website, joinpacman.com. Really appreciate the support. We've been doing daily coverage of the trial in addition to the podcast. Got some nice messages from people. Thanks for doing it. We are going to look at the dismissal of the juror that took place yesterday. Also, thanks to Irie Man for the Twitch sub.
So you guys are kind of like medics who are packing.
Yeah,
right?
basically. Well, he's an EMT, and
Gotcha.
I'm just kind of protecting his ass.
Oh, so you're a certified EMT?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And do you work as an EMT normally?
I'm a lifeguard normally. I got my ALS and I got my...
Well, I'm 17, actually. But
Then I'm former Army infantry, and I got a whole bunch of trial training.
Well, thank you for your service.
We got you. If you get...
wow. Man. Just like the culture gap here.
Thank you. There's a guy with a rack. Be careful, right behind that white fence. There's a rack there, so be careful. Hey! Friendly! Medic coming through! Medic coming through! Medic coming through!
Medic coming through. Oh my God.
Anybody need medical? We're running triage over here! Anybody need medical? Hey, medical?
This is so insane.
They know.
Okay, good.
They know.
You just got shot up. You good? Over here?
It's all right. Where are you shot?
I'm not shot.
You just said you got shot.
No, I
thought you got rubber bulleted.
Oh, no, I just got rubbed.
Pause the video right there. Did you see yourself in that video?
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that you are a little bit ahead of Mr. Rittenhouse in this video, but then you start walking east across Sheridan Road.
Correct.
Okay. And in that direction is the Ultimate gas station.
Yes.
Do you remember where you went after that?
That's the point at which I went inside the gas station
Okay.
and then came back out.
I thought I heard you say that the purpose of going across the police lines was to see if people are hurt and to go check on the 63rd Street location.
That is correct.
Help me understand, how does going to the Ultimate gas station and going inside fit in with that?
Because there were other people at the Ultimate gas station.
I don't understand what that
To
means.
go over there to see if they're hurt too.
Oh, I see. So you went over there to see if those people needed help?
Yes.
Did you go inside the Ultimate gas station?
Yes.
And I think you said at one point you were going to get a snack for
Yeah.
yourself. Did you know at that point that you were leaving the defendant?
No.
I got combos.
What did you expect he was going to do at that point?
I thought he was following me.
How long was it before you realized he hadn't followed you?
By the time I got across the street,
What did you do then?
I continued on to the Ultimate gas station and talked to some of the guys there. Turned around, he wasn't around.
He should ask
Went
what
back
snack he
inside
got.
and went inside.
Inside the gas station?
Yes.
Why didn't you go looking for the defendant?
I assumed that he had went inside the gas station as well.
And then when you looked inside, did you see him?
No.
So where did you look for him then?
Back outside the gas station?
In the gas station lot?
Yes.
And this is a time in the evening when there are a lot of people in that lot.
This is correct.
Did you find him?
No.
So if he's not inside the gas station and he's not in the lot, did you go out around the area looking for him?
I walked on the outside of the crowd and tried to look for him, and then I decided to head north to 59th.
Why is that?
That's where I told Lukowski we should go.
Do you know where Jason Lukowski was at this point in the video that we just paused at?
He was behind Richard McGinnis in this.
And when you walked across Sheridan to the east, do you know where Mr. Lukowski went?
No idea.
When is the next time you saw Mr. Lukowski?
After the shootings happened.
So when you went back, when you left Ultimate Gas and headed back to 59th Street, did you see Mr. Lukowski at that point?
No.
Did he return to 59th Street while you were back there?
I never made it back to 59th Street.
Why is that?
The shooting started.
Okay, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Yep.
So
They haven't even gotten to the shooting
your
yet.
testimony is that as we're watching this video now, which has been taken by Richie McGinnis, and we see the defendant right there, that Jason Lukowski is somewhere close by.
He should be.
Okay. Can we continue to play the video, please? Let us know if you see Mr. Lukowski, okay?
Does anybody need medical?
Medico.
Does anybody need medical?
I think someone's got some medical weed, I'll tell you that.
Does anybody need medical? Medical!
Please proceed, Governor.
Does anybody need medical? You were just the ones about get on the board, trying to help you on the front. Now you're trying to do medical. I remember you said.
Uh-oh.
Now you're talking about get off your car. Now you're talking about medical.
What car over in the dealership? Sorry, I don't
I'm going to stop it there.
That wasn't
because
me
there's nothing
muting,
to see
guys.
in the
I'm
rest
not
of this
muting
video.
anything.
Did
It's
you
not me.
see Jason Lukowski at any point in this video?
No, but the camera never panned to the rear either.
Sure, I understand. I'm just asking if you saw him. Okay, fair enough. So you indicated that you went over to the Ultimate Gas and then eventually back to 59th.
I headed towards 59.
When is the next time, after what we've just saw here, when is the next time you saw the defendant that night?
I didn't see him again that night.
At all?
Outside of a picture, no.
All right, I would like to play exhibit number 18 at that timestamp I indicated, please.
Why is this guy rolling his eyes at the mention of an exhibit? Thanks to Ross Patton. Ross, thanks for signing up on my website. I appreciate that. Ross using the code felony21. Appreciate that very much. This has a circus atmosphere to it, absolutely. We're going to get to that. I assume they'll take a break at some point. Anybody know how late they've been going East Coast time? Because they're an hour earlier.
It's a lot more peaceful.
5:40. Okay, that makes sense.
Seconds. We missed a little bit of the beginning of this. A little bit further. Yeah, let's play there, please.
And we'll see how this goes, since everyone seems to be peaceful now with the militia. Seems that things are a lot more peaceful.
I'm not muting, just remember, guys.
Pause that for a second. You saw yourself in that video.
Yes.
You mentioned that the police decided to gas something or other. I didn't quite catch it all. What were you talking about there?
I was talking about when they gassed the 59th Street location.
When you say they, you mean the police?
Yes.
When did that happen?
In the video where they show them throwing me and the defendant a bottle of water, it's like immediately preceding that.
So why do you know what was going on that caused the police to?
They saw that we had protesters standing in and amongst us, and it seemed like they didn't care for that too much.
Okay. Were you affected by that gas?
Yes.
How so?
Well, I'd already been hit with some sort of gas bomb from the protest crowd, and then that's when the gas hit the area. So I had to go inside and sit down for a couple of minutes.
And when you say gas, is this like a tear gas type thing?
Tear gas, yeah.
Okay. What physical effect did that have on you?
I couldn't breathe for a good minute and a half there solidly. Once I got in and sat down, the defendant helped me out with that. I was okay. For the days after, I really couldn't talk too well.
What did the defendant do to help you?
Kept shoveling water at me. So.
Did he give you any sort of medicine or anything
No.
like that?
Medicine.
So when you're talking about the police gassing things, that's what you're referring to?
Yes.
And then you talk about something about the EMT having to guard the EMT or something like that?
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
I said I was referring to me watching the defendant.
So
We're going to take a break,
my
but
God.
you won't miss anything. We'll continue to monitor.
You sort of will, actually. Let's go over here.
some snacks or whatever, and then I think you actually said earlier you spoke to some of the folks that were... I'm trying to set the time frame for the jury, but the ultimate relevance, Your Honor, is that this witness is indicating that his role was to protect the defendant that night, and he's obviously not with the defendant at this moment.
Okay, let me just switch.
The perceived need for protection south of 60th Street?
Perceived by whom?
By at least this individual who's close to the
What
defendant.
relevance would his perception?
Because they're part of the same group, and he's taken this responsibility, and now they're in an area where there's a perceived need to protect the defendant.
Well, why don't we take a break? Please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. Let's see about 5 after.
Oh boy.
Oh, pardon me? Well, you're right. Yeah, you're right. We're going to, she's correct. As I've complained about that clock before, we're going to start at 4 o'clock of actual time and pay no attention to that clock, which you won't be able to see from the jury room anyway.
Do not look at the clock in this room from the other room. Okay. All right. I invite you to stay with us. This is going to be a very short break, only 13 minutes. This is the oh boy, everybody having a grand old time. This is the prosecution interviewing another sort of vigilante type guy who was with Kyle Rittenhouse for much of the day. I do want to this is maybe one of the most interesting things that happened yesterday. A juror was dismissed for making a joke about Jacob Blake, who was the sort of impetus for the entire fact that these protests were going on in Kenosha. Okay, this was yesterday.
The reason I asked you to calm down was there was I was told that while you were being escorted to the car the other day, that you began to tell a joke about the shooting of Jacob Blake, and I wanted to see if is that accurate or not. And it is. Okay. Are you comfortable repeating what the joke was, or do you want to just leave it alone? I'm going to tell you that I spoke about. Well, I guess I'll hear from Mr. Do you want to finish what you were saying? I will tell you that I've talked quite a bit about public confidence in the outcome of the trial.
Yeah, there's already very little, thanks to this guy.
And regardless of whether the issue is as grave as you presented it in terms of inner feelings, it is clear that the appearance of bias is present, and it would seriously undermine the outcome of the case. So that in itself would be sufficient cause for discharge, but if you want to expand on that, you're welcome to.
No, Your Honor.
Did you want to say anything, defense?
If number 7's unwilling to repeat it, what it was, I think we're at a disadvantage, and I suppose his unwillingness can be taken in the worst light. So based on the unwillingness at this point,
It's funny. The defense considers it a disadvantage if they remove a guy who jokes about the death of Jacob Blake. Tells you a lot about, I mean, that's accurate. It's crazy, but that's accurate. He's like, listen, we'd love to have the guy joking about the death of Jacob Blake here on the jury, but we're sort of at a disadvantage if they don't tell us what the joke is.
I think it's probably the proper course.
Okay. All right. I think the best thing out of the circumstances, I'm going to dismiss you from the jury, sir. And we do thank you for taking the time to come down here. Thank you.
Sir, you can't ask that question.
It wasn't nothing to do with the case. It wasn't anything to do with Kyle and his 7 charges.
No, here.
Oh my God.
And I have not. I've not stated that you have. It's not. One of the things that I have to do when I have to make judgments, I try to confine my judgments to the things I have to judge and not to forming opinions about other people other than that. So I don't want to get into that. The point I'm making is that the public needs to be confident that this is a fair trial, and I think even at the very most, it was bad judgment to tell a joke of that nature. Okay, so that's okay.
So you're gone. Yeah, that's the end. That's the end for that juror. That'll be the end there. So we're standing by for the resumption. Glad to have everybody here. I really do appreciate everybody who's been here all week. Today's day 4, sort of day 3. They're in a break. This is not live, folks. This is not live, so you're not missing anything. As soon as they resume, believe me, I'm going to bring it to you. I want to say thanks to Angel's Kid as well as Dan's News and Mazik for subscribing via Twitch Prime. I really appreciate that. Appreciate it very, very much. I also want to invite you to get a membership on my website. We are primarily funded by folks who grab memberships on the website. YouTube, Twitch, all these different platforms. They take slices. When you get a membership on our website, we really keep almost everything. 2.9% we pay to swipe credit and debit cards. So it really is the top way to support the work that we're doing. And we have this coupon code here, Felony21. It saves you a whole bunch of money. I can't even say how much. My attorney says, don't mention it. Just say it's good, but don't say how much. And I'll thank everybody who does that, everybody who signs up on my website. Very, very much appreciate it. What we were just looking at was this story. A juror in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial was dismissed for joking about Jacob Blake. That's the video we were just seeing from yesterday. The juror, a retired white man, made the joke to a court police officer as the officer escorted him to his car on Wednesday afternoon. The officer reported the joke to Judge Bruce Schroeder, which is the right thing for the officer to have done, and it did indeed lead to a dismissal. Which is the right thing that should happen. Hard to disagree with that, guys. Hard to make the case that the juror should stay. Very tough to argue that. People are asking if I've made up my mind about the case. Well, in a sense, I have. I believe that Kyle Rittenhouse will be found not guilty on the homicide charges. And I think it's totally plausible that he will get a slap on the wrist for some of the lesser charges. That's my assessment. Now, when people say, but David, do you think that he's not guilty in the spirit of it? My view is that a 17-year-old from Illinois had no business being in Kenosha, Wisconsin at all. There's actually an element of this that's reminiscent of the George Zimmerman case, which is George Zimmerman caused the confrontation with Trayvon Martin, who he ultimately killed and was found not guilty due to self-defense, right? So by the letter of the law, you have a very big hill to climb in order to say that beyond any doubt, it was not self-defense when you have a very muddled situation where people have firearms and things are crazy and there's protesters and counter-protesters and vigilantes and all these things. So by the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt, I think it will be really tough to convince the jury that there is no chance that this was valid self-defense. Shouldn't have been there, shouldn't have had the gun, 17-year-old kid with a gun, created the confrontations by being there. Very conflicting evidence shown on the videos where Kyle Rittenhouse is chasing, then he's being chased, all these different things. But I think by the letter of the self-defense statutes, it is likely in my mind that Kyle Rittenhouse will be found not guilty on those. There's people in the chat asking me really stupid things that have no bearing on what I'm actually saying and criticizing me for things I've not said. And I'm not even going to engage with that. It's gutter trash. Okay. He still bought the gun illegally and is in possession of it. He crossed state lines without legal right to carry a gun. I agree. Yeah, right. So I think that's going to be a real problem. I want to say thanks to Blueberry Babe for gifting a subscription via Twitch, number 12. I have the goal of getting ourselves back to 1,000 from the standpoint of Twitch subscriptions. So I really appreciate everybody supporting us there. Huge thank you to Jacob Steinberg Jr. Steinberg Jr. is interesting. You don't tend to see Jewish folks do the junior thing, but maybe Jacob Steinberg is half Jewish. I don't know. But Jacob Steinberg Jr., thank you for signing up with the coupon code Felony21 on my website. Someone I actually trust is saying the code isn't working. Let me just take a look at it. Lots of times this is just to goad me into this. Let's see. I say yearly. Code Felony21. It is working. It's working incredibly well. Look at that. That's a shocking discount. I shouldn't even be legal. Could be a misdemeanor. Let's see here. Coupon code Felony21. Yeah, it's working fine, guys. Please. Trial will resume shortly. Yes, if you are just joining us, but everything working fine. I want to say thanks to Lily MW, who just subscribed via Twitch Prime. Really appreciate that. Do I have any voicemails about the trial? That I don't know. Let me see what we've got here.
Hey, David. B-Dog here. I got another question for you, dog. Recently, Republicans did very well in the Virginia election by using culture wars.
Virginia?
Is culture wars something Democrats can use to win elections?
I actually addressed that on my show today. Here's another troll.
Sir, it's Troll Man, the anti-intellectual. So I have two issues. I'm going to keep it concise. First, I'm going to say, well, I apologize you got
Voicemail's 2 minutes long.
offended by my last email, or voicemail, excuse me. But anyway, so two things. Number one, you think it's immoral for the unvaccinated to choose not to get vaccinated. However,
what?
You don't find it immoral that you fire them knowing that there could be children in their household that are affected by it. So it's okay to make the children suffer because of the parents' inability or unwillingness to get vaccinated.
Dear God. Okay, let's go now to the Eggman.
Hi, Dave. This is completely serious, okay? I have diagnosed the San Antonio troll. The San Antonio. Oh, my God. The troll from Texas, okay? Here's the deal with this guy, okay? He is smoking pure sativa. He needs an indica, okay? The problem is he's smoking weed that makes your brain hear and see and do all this crazy stuff, right? He needs an indica, which will slow down your brain, relax you, and see things more clearly, okay? I right now am offering to kick him like a jar, like an ounce of some really good, it's a strong indica, right? It's like a multi-indica crossed with a little bit of sativa. It's a strain that I made years ago. I kind of call it Pac-Man bud. It's really good, right? I want to give him an ounce for free. And after like a couple of weeks of that, I want to see if he's still hearing insane things that you say that aren't actually true. All right. Shalom, brother.
What the Eggman's referring to is that the San Antonio troll called in today and said, David, your take about India Walton is so stupid. You think she needed to go more socialist to win. And it's like, I never said that. That's not my analysis of that. A big thank you to Fonty, as well as Amber, Wamber, and Just Here for Kit, who just signed up via Twitch Prime. We love Twitch Prime. Also, thanks to Eric Green, who just signed up on my website with the coupon code Felony21.
Obama.
Very much appreciate that. The code is on fire, guys. It's crazy. Let's get to some super chats. Most juries for these types of trials never look at the root cause of the case and usually decide the way you describe, unfortunately. Right. I guess what I'm describing is sort of more of like a jury nullification type of response. And I think you're right. The guy who was smoking a cigarette while carrying 2 fire extinguishers, and where were their medical supplies? Chef's Ponds, I do think Kyle Rittenhouse had like a fanny pack with elements of medical in it. If it was done on purpose, it was smart to make the witness show that tattoo on his forearm. I noticed that. This guy's an Iraqi vet. He was on a documentary. David, just tuning in. Are we watching a video clip from The Onion? I know. They're going to say that because Kyle had Full Metal Jacket rounds in his AR-15, I'm assuming that he did not intend on using it for self-defense. Interesting. Would you be a guest on Ethan and Hassan's Leftovers show? Gladly. Anytime. And Marcus says, David, been a little while since I tuned in. Killer stash, my man. Yeah, I'm trying it out, you know? It started as a joke, but it's sort of taken a life of its own. I'm going to be honest, I was thinking of shaving it today after the stream. I guess maybe I could be convinced not to. Oh, wow. People saying don't dare shave it. Oh, my God. People saying don't shave it. Listen, I'll tell you what. If we get to 50 website members, I will keep it. Let me see if I can do this now. Let's see. Let me see if I can put here stash 18 of 50. Let me see if this works. No, that didn't work. How was it? There's a way to code that. Oh, I had a way of doing two things over here. That's too bad. Okay, well, in any case, it'll be 50. I'll keep it. I'll keep it for another day. How about this? If we get to 50, I will even start extending it and making it handlebar. Is that interesting to people? Where over the next few days, I will let it go further and further down without shaving, and then we'll see where we're at come Thanksgiving. That doesn't seem like, okay, people like that. People like that. All right, good. Okay. Thank you for your time and information. Kyle should not have been there, period. If that were you or me, we would have gotten no bail and the book thrown at us. David, don't you dare. # Team Stash. Oh, my God. Captain Pollywog Vanderbeef says, very strong stream, sir. Yeah, everybody relax. We're not missing anything. They're starting back up in a few minutes. Scheduled to start soon. I want to say a huge thank you to T. Ewan Woodruff, who just made a pledge via Patreon. Here's an extra incentive. Patreon counts double today, so instead of Patreon putting us at 19, it puts us at 20. Patreon counts double. Thanks to Sriman Shari for signing up on my website with the coupon code Felony21. Very much appreciate that. You're too kind. Also, thanks to Ferret Chief and Ares, God of Men, for the Twitch Prime subscriptions, putting us at 23. M. Frazzled just gifted 5 subscriptions on Twitch, which puts us at 28, which is extremely strong from the standpoint of keeping the mustache. Yeah. Kyle wasn't himself without a Snickers. Whoa. All right, so they're about to get back. Don't worry, everybody. We're not going to lose track. The deal is, 50, and I'll keep the mustache rather than shaving it today. Kyle's just having a really good time at this thing, huh? Really seems to be enjoying himself. Thanks to Yerbik for the Twitch Prime subscription, number 29 today. Appreciate it. Welcome to Mo Stash, who just subscribed on my website with the coupon code Felony21. Fake names related to mustaches, always welcome. You can put any name you want when you sign up on my website. We don't care. Alexander Camilton just got a Twitch subscription, number 31 today. Thanks to Steph Wisco, who just signed up on my website using an old coupon code SAD Trump from when it was like sad that Trump was a thing, and it still is. The judge seems to have really powerful indica. I would agree with that. Yeah, that's a good point. Marvin the Mustache signing up. Very exciting. The judge, what is the judge snacking on? Does anybody know? Elements of walnuts. Yeah, that could be.
Good afternoon, folks, again. By the way, how are the calzones? You can be seated.
Oh, my God.
Were they, anybody who didn't like them? How about the staff down here ate all the chips before I got any, but we have Subway tomorrow.
How were the calzones?
Let's go.
Subway. Can you imagine? Put it in the trash. Thank you to Mazik for gifting 5 subs, as well as Maddie D for the Twitch Prime sub. We're almost at me keeping the mustache may live to see another day. Real quick, Ernesto Jimenez just signed up on my website. Gloria Byers just signed up on my website, and Scott Faulkner did as well. That puts us at 41. At 50, the mustache survives. If we don't make it, the mustache will be gone by this time tomorrow.
Exhibit 11. This is the Corey Elijah or Corey Washington live stream. We've got it paused here at, I believe that's the 54-minute and 30-second mark.
Uh-oh.
Or let's be precise, 54:29. Do you see yourself in this video?
Oh boy.
I do.
Okay. We're going to play this video forward for about 20 seconds, and then we'll pause.
Okay.
Big, massive dumps.
There's fireworks being lit down there.
Wow.
I don't know what that is. You young kid.
Now, Mr. Balch, what we've just seen in that video, it showed you walking near the gas price electronic sign there for the Ultimate gas station. Would you agree with me on that?
I would.
And you appear at the end here to kind of walk behind that.
Hey guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, but a viewer just recorded on a different feed just now. The judge was caught on a hot mic, and apparently he was complaining about how long this was going on. Let's take a look at this.
You're gonna do Subway tomorrow. So look at the orders in the morning. We're gonna do Subway tomorrow. So they're gonna get
Subway sandwiches.
Sounds good. What's that?
Martin Smith is picturing just walking by a witness.
He's not supposed to do that. Oh man. This seems like it's been going on forever.
The judge is poor and he wants it to end.
Well, like I said, I think we broke it because I tried to.
We had Mr. Williams or McGinnis. We had Mr. McGinnis, and they took a break. And that's what.
Oh man, that is rich, guys. That is rich. All right, let's get back to it.
Sheridan Road.
Sir, are we boring you, Your Honor?
To go north, and that's when I heard a pistol shot. And then almost immediately following it, I heard 4 rifle shots.
All right, let's get back over here to where they are. We're getting to the shooting, so I think we probably want this.
Bearcats were right here. When I got there, a sheriff's deputy held me over to the car. I'm at the Bearcat. He opened the door. I sat there and had a 2 to 3 minute conversation with him, maybe about what was going on over there. At that point, he directed me to go behind the Bearcats to go across the street. So at about that point, I moved west across Sheridan Road. When I got there, I turned to go north, and that's when I heard a pistol shot. And then almost immediately following it, I heard 4 rifle shots.
What did you do then?
I turned and headed south.
Where did you go?
Towards where I'd heard the shooting. So I was right around in here, and I ran across the street into this green area here, telling everybody to get down. And then I got to the end, overlooking this area here. There's like a low wall. And then shooting erupted behind me over in this general area.
When you say this general area, can you point the pointer at that again, please? I'm
Yes.
sorry I missed that. You're pointing to the area along Sheridan Road, south of 60th, sort of in front of the Boost Mobile and Check and Go?
Correct.
again, we're going to try and play this artificial thought process.
Right.
I know you probably know now what that was, but let me just ask, first of all, at the time, the shooting you just described, at that time, that night, did you know what was going on?
I had no idea what was going on.
With the benefit of hindsight and watching all the other videos now, what was that, if you know?
The first shooting that I heard, the pistol shot and the rifle shots, whereas the engagement between the defendant and Rosenbaum and the people that were with him down here. The secondary shootings would have been Anthony Huber and Gage Gorowitz.
Is that Gage Grosskreutz?
Grosskreutz, yes.
It's kind of a difficult name. Can I just ask, Mr. Balch, when you were, where were you specifically when you heard or observed the shootings of Mr. Huber and Mr. Grosskreutz?
I didn't visually see them. I heard them.
Okay.
But I would have been right in this area right here.
Do you know if the shootings of Huber and Grosskreutz were further north of where you were at on Sheridan or further south, if you know?
It sounded like they were coming from behind me, so they would have been to the north.
Okay. We're going to have another video. It's just going to take a second to set it up.
Pretty powerful video here. Folks, we're at 50. The mustache has survived another day. The mustache will stay. I've just gotten a report from the courtroom. Reportedly, the calzones had no fresh buffalo mozzarella. They're giving out calzones with no fresh buffalo mozzarella here.
A portion at the end. Can we rewind just a little bit from there, please? Keep going back. Keep going back. Keep going. All right, play from there, please. This is at the 43-second mark in the video. We've already had some testimony about this video, but Mr. Balch, do you see anyone that you know in that video?
No.
Okay. There's an individual there that is standing. There's two individuals that I see on that screen. The one on the right is kind of in all dark and appears to be holding a rifle of some sort. Do you know who that is?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, can we back that up again about 10 seconds, please? And then we'll play it forward.
That would appear to be me.
That's you, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're actually, at this point, north of where the Huber and Grosskreutz shootings occurred.
This could get pretty bad.
That's fair to say.
So when you said earlier you were south of it, it turns out you were actually north.
Yeah.
You didn't know where you were.
Do you remember what you did? Actually, before I ask that question, we can see in this video that the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse, is walking up the street after he has just shot and killed Anthony Huber and just shot Gage Grosskreutz in the arm. At the time, and I know with the benefit of hindsight you've watched these things, but at that particular moment, had you any idea what had just happened?
No.
Did you see those shootings?
No.
Did you see the defendant?
No.
You've been trained in the military, been around shootings before, fair to say?
Yes.
How is it possible that you didn't see those things?
I wasn't looking down the street when it happened.
Did you hear those gunshots?
Yes.
Did they draw your attention to that area?
Yes.
Did you look?
Yes.
So how come you say you didn't see?
Because by the time I got that far, close enough to see it, everything was done.
Did you see the bodies? The body of Mr. Huber?
Yes.
At what point, when you're moving down the street, did you see that body?
After I got to Grosskreutz, when I got down there, Jason Lekowski was helping put a tourniquet on his arm. There's actually a video of that where I come around the side and ask everybody's all right if they got it. Saw the wound on Grosskreutz' arm. Holy crap. And then I ran over to check Anthony Huber's body.
When we've played this video before, we've heard a lot of people's voices shouting out about the defendant. That's the guy, whatever, things like that. Did you hear any of those voices at that time?
I wasn't really trying to pay attention to what they were pointing out.
When in this process did you realize that an individual or individuals, people, had been shot?
Well, I'd heard the shooting, so I knew that there was shooting going on. I didn't know anybody had actually been hit until I got to Grosskreutz.
Is it fair to say that this wasn't the first time all evening that you'd heard gunshots?
We had heard them a couple of times throughout the night.
When you would hear gunshots, would you wonder if that meant someone was injured?
Most of the time they were far enough in the distance that there would be very little impact from us going in that direction.
I think you testified earlier that what originally started you heading south was hearing the pistol shot and the 4 shots that occurred at Car Source and 63rd.
Correct.
And that, according to the map, is about 3 blocks away.
Correct.
You talk about hearing other gunshots that are in the distance. Why did the shots here 3 blocks away attract your attention when others did not?
They were a lot closer than the other ones had been, and there was the potential that people that I was with that night were down there.
Did you think to yourself, that's the defendant?
No.
You didn't know, did you know where he was at?
I didn't know where he was at, but I didn't assume who had been doing the shooting.
When we see you in this video, is that after you have looked for the defendant?
Yes.
When we see you in this video, did you have any idea where the defendant was?
No.
When we see you in this video, had you checked at Ultimate Gas to see if the defendant was there?
Yes.
Did you find him?
No.
When we see you in this video, had you already traveled north of the police line at 60th?
Yes.
Had you seen the defendant up there?
No.
Is it fair to say that at this moment in the video, you didn't have any idea where the defendant was?
I had no idea where him or Jason Lekowski were.
And even though he's walking up the middle of the street near where you're at this point in the video, you didn't see him?
I didn't pay any attention to him, no.
Who is the first person who's shot by the defendant that you went to?
Grosskreutz.
Did you help to treat him at all?
I made sure that Lekowski had everything under control. I saw that he had a handgun in his hand. I already knew that a pistol shot had been fired and some rifle shots. I kind of assumed he was the person that shot the pistol shot. But as far as who had shot him, I had no idea. In fact, for a minute there, I thought it was Lekowski.
Who had shot Mr. Grosskreutz?
Yeah, because he was already there.
After you dealt with Mr. Grosskreutz, what did you do next?
I ran over to Anthony Huber.
Tell us about that.
He was laying kind of slumped over in the gutter a little bit there in the street. There were a couple of protesters kind of around him. When I ran up on him, they ran off. I started to roll him over, check on him, put my hand on his neck to see if there was a pulse or whatnot, and didn't feel one, but it was really just like a split-second check, and then the Bearcat pulled up next.
When you say Bearcat, you mean one of the armored law enforcement
Yes.
vehicles? And what, if anything, did those folks do?
They climbed out. They told me they were going to take him, so I kind of gathered up his stuff that was laying on the ground, put it on him, helped him load him up in there.
What did you do next?
I continued south.
Now, I know you described what you've done so far with Mr. Huber lying there. Did Mr. Huber say anything?
Mr. Huber was deceased, as far as I'm aware.
So at the moment you came upon his body, he was already dead?
So far as I know, yes.
And you said you continued south after that?
Correct.
Where did you go?
I went to the 63rd Street location.
What did you find when you were there?
On the way down, I heard protesters saying somebody else had been shot down there, and I could hear shooting going on at the 63rd Street location, or thereabouts.
This is the
What did you do once you
prosecution,
got
guys.
to the 63rd location?
Once I got there, I had somehow on the run picked up a couple of folks associated with the protest who were armed as well. Mr. Lukowski came in not too soon after that. Because you could hear the shooting coming from this area over here. And there were protesters kind of like huddled over into here.
I just want to make a record, Mr. Balch, because we need to be able to have everything typed in. So if I could just describe what you've just shown us, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I think you had pointed the pointer at the 63rd Street area in the block west of Sheridan Road between there and, is that 10th Avenue? Yeah, between Sheridan and 10th Avenue. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
And I know you indicated there was an area where, did you say there were gunshots that you heard coming from?
Yes.
Can you again point so I can make sure I am, okay. You're describing the area that is sort of the west half of the block between Sheridan and 10th Avenue along 63rd on the north side of 63rd. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And you indicated you heard some gunshots from that area?
Yes.
Do you remember how many?
There were quite a few.
Did you see anybody who was doing the shooting?
I didn't visually see anybody shooting.
Visually,
but
he didn't.
once I
Auditorily, he
moved,
saw some.
we moved into this area right next to the building. I kind of popped around into those cars. There were like 2 or 3 cars over in there. And it looked like this building right here was where it was coming from, but there were also shots coming from further back.
Okay,
And
if I could just please make a record of all the things you just described. You indicated that you were in the car source lot near the building on the car source lot and kind of looked around it. Is that right?
Correct.
Would that have been along
Okay,
sort of...
there's a lot of confusion in the chat. This is a prosecution witness. I know it sounds like this is a law enforcement guy. He maybe sees himself that way, but this was a volunteer guard, as it says on the screen, okay? It's on the screen. This is a Kenosha volunteer guard.
Did you see again or observe at that location?
It looked like there was somebody standing in the second floor window, and they looked to be holding a gun. To get a better look, I kind of moved out into the cars and faced in that direction. As soon as the person in the window saw me, they ducked around the corner. And then bullets started coming from the west and started hitting the car that I was hiding behind.
The person you saw in the window, is this a window of a house?
It looks like a house, yes.
This is someone inside a house holding a firearm.
They may or may not have been.
And then bullets came from the west and hit the vehicle that was near you?
Correct.
Did any of those hit you?
No.
What did you do as a result of that?
One of the folks associated with the protest was behind the car with me. I told him to get behind the car source building, and we scooted around behind the building real quick.
What happened then?
That point, there was a white car that had caught on fire. The gas tank went off on it. Kind of poked our heads back around. By that time, SWAT was directly behind the building from car source. And they're like, hey, somebody's over here shooting.
Relevance.
Searching for the relevance, Mr. Hinger.
That's fine. Let me skip ahead for a moment. Can we show exhibit number 13 at the 2140 mark, please? You had testified that when you went down to the 63rd Street location, you saw that plastic bag on the ground. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm going to have an image of that up on the screen, and I'd like you to take a look at that when it's ready here.
And why they're technically getting an image up for the witness.
All right, we'll get back over to this other feed, and there seems to be these discussions happening a lot. I want to keep thanking people who are subscribing today because I really appreciate it. Anne Smystrela, oh boy, I'm really struggling with that, has just signed up on my website. So has Jason Williamson. That's a name I'm very comfortable with the pronunciation for. Because we did get to 50, I'm not shaving the mustache today. I was threatening to, but I'm going to keep it. They are working here on different technical elements as they continue to be. Also, thanks to Lil Pablo Mesa for the Twitch Prime subscription. I appreciate that as well. This is a prosecution witness being questioned by the prosecution. This is direct examination. The website is joinpacman.com, joinpacman.com. Mustache is fine. Yeah. I may go handlebar if we get to 100. We'll see. But the technical issues continue. We did have a video earlier. The judge caught on a hot mic complaining that the testimony feels like it's been going on, quote, forever. And that's going to be maybe something that comes up.
Timestamps mixed up there. We're going to play a little bit of that video here. I'd like you to take a look at it if you could, please. Thanks.
All right, guys. So here's what we got going on. We are not trying to spook anyone. We're gonna move in. It looks like
just play the video, please. Thanks. Mr. Balch, there's an object on the ground on the left side of this view screen. Do you see that object?
Yes.
Can you identify that for us?
That's the plastic bag that I picked up to take a look at.
That's the one that Mr. Rosenbaum threw. Is that correct?
Correct.
Couple more things finally. After all is said and done here, you stayed at this location and spoke to some individuals who were from the media. Is that fair to say?
We kind of got ambushed by them.
Well, make it sound like they were trying to attack you. They came up and were...
Yeah, they came up out of nowhere and we weren't expecting them.
When you say we, who was with you?
Jason Lekowski was with me.
When these folks asked you your name, what did you tell them?
I gave them a false name of Thomas Craig.
Why did you do that?
To protect my identity so that I could get out of there and figure out what was going on.
There were folks there that showed you video of what had happened that night.
Yes.
In those view screens, were you able to see the defendant?
One of the live streamers did show me a picture of the defendant when he was laying on the ground. being struck on the head, I believe, when he fired his weapon.
From that, were you able to identify that that was someone that you had been with?
Yes.
That evening? Did you admit that?
To them, no.
In fact, when they confronted you on it and accused you of knowing exactly who that was, you lied to them and told them you did not, correct?
Correct.
And when I discussed this with you, you gave me the explanation that because you were concerned for your safety at that time?
Yeah, we were surrounded by several people, and there were groups of them milling around us as well.
At that moment that you lied about knowing the defendant, you still had your AR-15, correct?
Correct.
And your Glock?
No, I didn't have the Glock at this time.
And Mr. Lukowski was with you?
Yes.
Was he armed?
Yes.
Were there police cars nearby?
Further down the street from us, yes, but they were dealing with the shootings and whatnot.
Once you were informed that the defendant was the one who had been involved in these shootings, was a suspect, did you approach the police that night and tell them about your information?
No.
Ooh.
I have nothing further.
And I think they are doing this, leaving very little time for the defense. The defense may only have 15 to 30 minutes before they wrap.
Just 1 second. Does anybody need a break? Go ahead.
Broad question. That evening, while you were out on patrol,
Patrol.
with my client Kyle Rittenhouse.
Patrol.
You're armed, he's armed.
This is correct.
And you went by law enforcement on numerous occasions.
Yes.
Did anybody ever tell you you can't be out there with these weapons?
No.
Did anybody ever question you or him about your age?
No.
You were interviewed several days after this by the FBI, correct?
Correct.
Could this guy stand and talk into a mic, maybe?
You about that bag, correct?
Correct.
And reading from the report, you told them you examined the bag quickly and observed an ammonia mixture and a small bleach bottle, correct?
Correct.
Is that what you observed?
That's what I thought I'd observed at the time.
By smell?
I didn't check the smell.
Okay. What made you think it was ammonia?
Because of what we'd been hit with earlier in the night.
And when the bomb had been hit earlier in the night, Mr. Rosenbaum was there with that bag, correct?
Yes.
Now, you testified that when you were out there that evening at the end, you didn't have your Glock, correct?
Correct.
You had borrowed it to Nick Smith?
He told me his name was Nathan, but yes.
Okay. So you were using a pseudonym, false name?
Correct.
Nathan was using a false name?
Yes.
Did he give you a false name or did he say Kyle Rittenhouse? I'm pointing to my client.
I don't remember if he gave me a pseudonym or not. He went by Kyle most of the night when he was talking to me.
Kyle.
Yep.
You refer to a man and a woman who you always saw with Rosenbaum, correct?
Correct.
Can you describe that man?
He was tall, scraggly looking with a beard.
Okay.
He had like camo shorts on too, I think.
Okay.
Okay, let's switch over here. We do prefer this feed when we've got it.
Smith?
He told me his name was Nathan, but yes.
Okay. So you were using a pseudonym, false name?
Correct.
Nathan was using a false name?
It's a little behind, yeah.
Did he give you a false name or did he say Kyle Rittenhouse? I'm pointing to my client.
I don't remember if he gave me a pseudonym or not. He went by Kyle most of the night when he was talking to me.
Kyle.
Yep.
You refer to a man and a woman who you always saw with Rosenbaum, correct?
Correct.
Can you describe that man?
He was tall, scraggly looking with a beard.
Okay.
He had like camo shorts on too, I think.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the top?
I can't remember the color of the top specifically.
Yeah. Do you remember anything specifically about the woman?
She had a black backpack on. She was a little heavy set, maybe.
Do you remember anything about her hair?
I think
Sir, would you call her thick?
bright color, maybe.
Okay. I'll show you a picture, see if you recognize these individuals.
Sir, I don't know.
This is surreal. Yeah. Was that a burp? Did you guys just hear that? Did this guy just belch into the mic? What the hell was that? How does the court stenographer note that? Yeah, this is a good super chat. Amazing how this witness can give straight answers now. Folks, the mustache does stay. We did get 50 members. At 100, it will be molded into a handlebar starting today, which will go.
All right, so the question asked by the defense attorney, Mark Richards, was whether or not he would recognize the male and the female, the man and the woman, that he saw with one of the individuals who was shot and killed in this case. The judge is asked not to
A lot
call
of
him
characters straight out of Central Casting here.
Baum, and so he said, let me show you a picture and see if you can identify them, and we can see there's some technical issues along with what he's trying to pull up.
I'm going to show them so that we can print it out. Yeah, that's cool.
Could you take a picture of my laptop screen and then print the picture for the defendant to look at, please?
A photograph
Sorry,
of
the
my
witness.
associate's computer. Do you recognize anybody in that picture?
The female with the red hair is the one that was accompanying Rosenbaum, and the other male.
Okay, the other male is not in the picture completely, correct?
Correct.
But that is the individual
Yes.
who was with Mr. Rosenbaum. Do you notice anything in his hand?
He's got the handgun in his hand, as usual.
As usual.
You might not be able to tell.
See, I did it for you.
With this bar right here, does that tell you where that was?
That's at the Ultimate gas station.
Sir, did you find this woman attractive that evening?
And you and my client were present when Mr. Rosenbaum threatened you and Kyle, correct?
Correct.
And he specifically said if he got either of you alone, he would expletive kill you.
That's correct.
Any doubt about that?
No doubt about that at all.
Told the FBI that?
Yes.
And that was right after, I'm going to get his name wrong, Dustin had put out dumpster fire?
Correct. It was about 20 to 30 minutes before we headed south and the shooting started.
And Mr. Binger asked you some questions about did he try to attack you at that time? How many guys were there?
There were about 4 or 5 armed men in front of him.
Okay, and there's some other armed men on the roof?
Correct.
The roof.
That were upsetting him because he
seemed to not appreciate armed men.
Okay, and you specifically referred to him, and I wrote the words down, he was a hyper-aggressive individual, correct?
That is correct.
Could you tell me what that means to you?
Every encounter I saw him have with someone was extremely aggressive.
You saw him lighting fires?
Lighting fires, getting in people's faces. Protesters and armed individuals were having to get between him and other people to stop fights from happening.
Did you see him tip over the porta potty?
I didn't witness that.
Okay. Did you see him take rocks out of the St. James rock pile?
He got the rocks he was throwing from somewhere.
Was he collecting his own urine during the evening?
Then taking the trailer out of St. James, taking it down the road and starting it on fire.
I didn't witness that event.
I have nothing further. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Question?
Couple things, Mr. Balch, and then we'll be done. You testified you gave a statement to the FBI.
Correct.
That was dated August 28th of 2020. Would it sound right
Correct.
to you? Yes?
That sounds correct.
3 days after this incident.
That is correct.
When you spoke to the FBI, what was your intent?
Well, I really didn't have any intentions of speaking to the FBI. They just showed up at the house. I gave them what information I could remember and what I could make sense of. They were very clear with me to only give them the information that I was 100% sure about.
Did you withhold any information from them?
No.
Did you tell them the truth?
Yes.
Were events in your mind clearer 3 days after the incident than they might be now?
Even then, it was, the whole situation was kind of a big jumble of, and I was trying to put timelines together. So I had told them explicitly that my timelines are going to be a little off.
I understand that, but do you think your memory of what happened on the night of August 25th was better 3 days later than it is 14 months later?
It would be, yes.
When you spoke to the FBI, did they identify themselves as the FBI?
Yes.
Did you know you were speaking to law enforcement officials?
Yes.
Did you understand that if you didn't tell them the truth, that that could get you in trouble?
Yes.
And you wanted to be completely honest with them?
Yes.
Did you understand that they were asking you questions about a homicide?
Yes.
Did you understand that it would be helpful to give them as much information as possible about what happened here?
Yes.
Was that what you wanted to do?
Yes.
Did you want to cooperate with them?
Yes.
Did you want to tell them everything that you knew about what happened?
Yes.
In your statement, you say, and I'm going to quote, this is on page 3 of your statement, Balch stated that this eventual victim, who's Joseph Rosenbaum, was carrying a hospital-style bag with chemicals to make Molotov cocktails. You then say later on that you, this is on page 4, Balch examined the bag quickly and observed an ammonium mixture and a small bleach bottle. First of all, am I reading your statement to the FBI correctly?
You are.
None of that is true, is it?
It doesn't appear to be, no.
Nowhere in this statement to the FBI did you mention any tall guy with a scraggly beard or a shorter woman with colored hair, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Now he really remembers exactly who those people were.
No, they just never asked those questions.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when the FBI talks to you, they don't write out a statement for you, let you review it for accuracy and completeness, do they?
No.
They just ask you questions, they show up to your house unannounced, you answer the questions, they leave, and they write down what they think is important.
That is correct.
I have nothing further.
Oh, boy.
Okay, folks, let's break for the day, and please call after, excuse me.
The clerk of court's going to be down here in a few minutes, Judge.
Okay. I'm thinking about my Monday juries when we finish for the day. Please don't talk about the case. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. And
Are they not sequestered?
I'll turn you over to the clerk of the court, and I think she could probably take care of it here in the library, maybe? Or maybe they want to go upstairs anyway. You have things upstairs?
Tomorrow we'll have meatball grinders from Subway.
Go up there and see you there. Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Jury exiting. Hey, big thank you to Danny Corradine Jones, who just grabbed a membership on my website, joinpacman.com. Quite a day here. Quite a day.
Well, it's the conclusion of day.
All right, let's see if there's still got stuff going. No, that's basically, it looks like that's it. Yeah. All right, guys, that's the conclusion for today. Oh, no, we're back live. Hold on. So the jury's not sequestered and Rittenhouse is out on bail, right? I mean, that's what's going on. Okay, now it does seem to actually be over. All right, everybody. I appreciate everybody who joined me today. We will likely be back with
Virginia, New Jersey.
Oh my God. We will likely be back with more coverage tomorrow. Thanks to everybody who supported the stream. See everybody very, very soon.
Please proceed, Governor.
Thank you.